friend and I have never experienced something like this before in our entire lives. Recently, my mom had to go to an old high school friend's birthday party. It was convenient for us to go because a family friend has a farmhouse we could stay at in Central Florida. My mom didn't feel comfortable going alone because the farmhouse can be really creepy at night due to the lack of light on the property and it just being in the middle of nowhere. So I told my mom I would go with her as long as I could bring a friend. We get to the property and it's a huge 52-acre plot of land with cows, horses, and open fields, and a tree line surrounding the land. We looked on a map to see exactly where we were. We saw we were right next to 2 Native American forests. We unpacked our stuff and were able to check out all the property because the owner had a golf cart type ATV. Friend saw a TikTok talking about skinwalkers and the Native American name. We didn't know any better, so we're talking about them all day on all parts of the property. Later that night, we saw a video talking about how even saying their name could provoke them to come. We immediately got kind of scared because we found out the party my mom was going to would be an hour away. We would be in the farmhouse all night, all alone. As the sun started to set, we quickly noticed that none of the windows on all 4 walls of the house had curtains. With the lights on in the house, you could only see the reflection from the inside. We could see right in from the outside. As I said, the property had little to no light, but some floodlights were motion activated on the back porch of the farmhouse. Just a quick description of the farmhouse. It was a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom house with a little living room and a kitchen. There were 2 doors, one leading out to the fields in the back, and the other was directly attached to the horse stables, which was more of the lounging area as there were tables and a bar and a giant flat screen. Okay, so now we can get into the scary part of the night. My friend was putting away our dinner in the fridge and I went outside to smoke. As soon as I walked up to the table, in the horse stable, I heard something really close to me and ran back inside. As soon as I came back inside, my friend asked if I had knocked on the window. Of course, I had said no, but my friend found that hard to believe as she definitely heard a distinct knock at the window. This window is important to the story because the floodlights were right outside of it. I forgot to mention we had brought our dog, and she was fine the entire day until it became dark out. When my friend and I were both inside, we just brushed it off until the floodlight outside the window turned on. My dog bolted to see who was there. My dog sat there and barked at the window, but when we get back to go check, there was nothing there. Now both of us are really needed a cigarette, so we both decided to go outside and give it one more try. My friend stepped outside and looked to her right. I was confused and told her we should stay in the stable. As soon as we sat down, there were another 2 knocks on the other side of the building. We got up and sprinted towards the house where we locked ourselves in, where my friend told me she heard whispering coming from the right as soon as we stepped out from the house. At this point, we were really freaked out, and the dog had begun to start barking at the same window again, where the light turned on once again to nothing there. The only comfort we could get at this time was calling my friend's parents and some of our friends. However, after a short 10 minutes of us talking to people, our service cut out, and both of our calls failed. We couldn't text anyone either, and this really scared us because we hadn't had a problem with their service the entire day. We once again tried to relax and put on a movie. That's when we heard something jump on the roof and walk above the room we were in. My friend and I immediately leapt up and ran to the bathroom. We didn't know what to do at this point. I thought our best bet was to run to the car, which is at least 40 feet away, and to get off the property until my mom and the owner could come back. We grabbed our stuff and still hearing whatever was on the roof walking around to where we moved in the house. As soon as we got to the door, my friend pushed me and said, "Listen," which is when we heard 2 knocks right at the door we were standing in front of. It then ran towards the back of the house where all the floodlights were and the back porch went on. The dog was going crazy and my friend and I were on the verge of tears. I told her we had to run to the car and get out of there, which we did. As we were running, we could hear something on the roof of the stables, almost as if it was following us to the car. We sped off and sat at a parking lot 2 miles away for 2 hours until my mom and a friend returned to the property. They escorted us back in, and as we were walking toward the stables to get into the door of the house, there was another knocking in the stable. The owner said she heard it and went to go check what it was, but saw nothing. Something my friend and I had noticed was that the sound of the crickets were back again. When we left the house earlier that night, there wasn't a sound that could be heard other than the whatever was on the roof. My mom ended up sleeping there at the house, but my friend and I were traumatized. We felt as though the farmhouse was peaceful again. As soon as we got back, we didn't feel any of the negative energy we were feeling earlier that night. We were too scared to even sleep, so we both sat in the bathroom on the floor apologizing for whatever might have offended. We honestly don't know what this could have been, but we don't want this post to get taken down for being framed as a question. We have come to a conclusion of our own of what we thought it was, and it's interesting to hear other people's thoughts. I live in the same home state for skinwalkers. Utah is a beautiful state with ever-changing landscapes and adventures to be experienced. Recently, I stayed at my great-grandfather's cabin near Oakley. He built it on a ranch next to a beautiful forest. A couple of days ago, I went out to the spring to refill our drinking water. It was around 11 p.m. As I was walking along the road with my flashlight, I noticed a deer laying down in the middle of the road. Its legs were flayed outwards, almost like it was a rug. Its eyes were glowing white, and it stared at me for what felt like around 5 minutes. I physically couldn't move or look away. It was almost like it had some weird energy to it. I got these horrible chills. They weren't anything like those chills you sometimes get down your spine. My entire body was pulsing. The deer bolted off, and I lost the chills and went through a shortcut to the spring. I was walking back when another deer was standing upright on its hind legs. It was fucking standing up. I tried to run, but it was like when you try to run in a dream. No matter how hard I tried, I wouldn't go anywhere. I must have blacked out because I was lying down in the dirt road with a horrible headache and a nasty smell in the air. I returned to the cabin, and I didn't speak of anything that happened that night for the remaining time I was there. I'm currently in western Kentucky, in a very woodsy part. I was walking my dog before bed, and out of nowhere, he sat down and howled. I had absolutely no clue what this issue was, but I could sense that something just wasn't quite right. I decided to head back to the house, and I felt hyper aware of everything. Aware of every crunch of the branches, every rock I kicked, and every step that I took. I had a flashlight because it's very dark at night where I am, and I shined it into the woods out of curiosity, and a pair of eyes reflected back at me. I figured it was just a coyote and kept moving. I woke up very early to hear a sort of weeping sound coming from the outside in the direction of the woods. Of course I was freaked out, so I looked out the window. There was a deer standing in the field leading into the woods, but something just seemed off about the deer. Its eyes looked funky. It almost looked bulky, and the weirdest part was its legs looked mismatched. It looked almost as if the legs were on backwards, the joints being in the wrong spot and bending the opposite way of a normal leg on a deer. My first thought was CWD, but it didn't look as frail as the deer with CWD. The deer had returned multiple times since the incident, and I have even seen it standing on its back legs to stare at me. I still hear weeping sounds coming from the woods in the early hours of the morning. Around 2 to 5 a.m. is when I hear it the loudest. If I need to give any more information about my encounter, I certainly will. Please let me know what I should do, or if there is anything I can do about this. What did I see?